Yo, what is up everyone, and welcome to 2017. This is my first video. Hopefully all of you guys had a happy new year, but it's all business here, guys. We're gonna get right back into the news and some of the stuff that I want to talk about heading into this new year. And seriously, this is something that I see way too much, and it primarily comes from like hardcore Wii U fans that have been just super against ports, and this is always their defense, or this is always their I don't want to see this because I'd rather see a sequel, or they should work only on a sequel. Let me just say this again for like the millionth time. I just want to make sure this is clear, because every single time, for people that I know who watch my videos or at least look at the comment sections and see this, whenever I say, hey, there should be a port of this game to the Nintendo Switch, that does not mean I do not want to see a sequel. And no, that does not mean that there will be one or the other. People really need to get that out of their head. Just because a publisher decides to make a port does not automatically mean there will be no sequel, or time spent making that port will take away from a sequel or a new game. Because this once again happened with Tokyo Mirage Sessions when I talked about how that game needs to be ported, or I would like for that game to be ported to the Nintendo Switch so it can fix some of the issues from the Wii U game, and also to where it can get people more interested in that type of game, because the Wii U sales were horrible. So guys, once again, most of the time when a port is made, it is not made by the original developers of the game, because usually those developers are working on something else, whether it be a sequel or a new IP or another IP or something else. This happens all the time, and people who call themselves Nintendo fans keep on coming to me and saying, well, I'd rather have those developers, instead of making that, I'd rather have them make this. Guys, it is not one or the other. You will probably get both. Let me give you guys some examples so we can finally put this to bed once and for all. Let's just kill it. The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, that was not made by the same Zelda team who was working on the new one, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD, that is not made by the same Zelda team who was making Breath of the Wild. Bayonetta 1 on the Wii U, that is not made by the same Platinum Games who was making Bayonetta 2 at the same time. Xenoblade Chronicles for the new Nintendo 3DS, that was not made by Monolith Soft, who was working on Xenoblade Chronicles X and potentially even getting ready for their next project after that, okay? That was ported by like Monster Games or something like that, one of Nintendo's in-house port teams basically at this point. Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, that was not ported by Retro Studios. We can even go outside of Nintendo. Tomb Raider on the PS4 and Xbox One, the reboot, that was not made by Crystal Dynamics. They were working on the new Tomb Raider. The Uncharted collection, Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 on the PS4 and 1080p 60 frames per second, that was not made by Naughty Dog. That was made by Blue Point Games. That was also the same team who ported Titanfall 1 to the Xbox 360. That was not done by Respawn. So guys, can we please put the dumb argument of, well, I don't want a port because that can take away from an actual sequel? No, that's not the case, because most of the time it's handled by an outside studio. All ports do is give people more jobs to do and give people more jobs in this industry. Without ports, there would be a lot less studios. We're still going to get our sequels, guys. We still are. A port does not mean that we aren't going to get something. So can we please stop using that as a defense to why you don't want a port or why you don't want to see one? Okay, it gets people employed and working. It gets more money back into the gaming industry, and it can potentially pick up whatever franchise they're working on, more fans for people who missed it beforehand. All right, now that we're done with that, let's move on to the next thing that I want to talk about. And this is something that many websites aren't reporting on because of the person who is reporting it. So Obi-Wan Plays, he's a YouTuber on here, pretty popular, has over 35,000 subscribers, I think 36,000 at this point. And he has talked about his 12 days of Switchmas, where he's had Laura Kate Dale actually on to corroborate some of his leaks that he's put out already. And he put out another one. Now, Laura Kate Dale hasn't said anything about this, but what he's saying with this newest one is that there's going to be Resident Evil 7 on the Nintendo Switch with VR capabilities. So that's what he's reporting on there. I'll have a link to the full video that you can check out in the description below, and many websites just aren't reporting on it because it's him and maybe they don't see him as credible, or because he hasn't got anything right at this point. So maybe if he does get this right, they might see him more credible in the future. But I will be reporting on it because he has multiple leaks that he says that he's getting from his source, and I don't think he's going to sit there and pretty much lie about whatever this person is telling him. Now, this might turn out to be false because it is 100% rumor at this point, but there's nothing that I'm seeing that I'm like, okay, well, I'm definitely not going to at least talk about some of what he said. But yes, Resident Evil 7 VR pretty much at launch, because the PS4 and Xbox One versions of the game will be coming out in January, so I'm pretty sure it will be a launch game. Now, what we do know is that Capcom is signed up for one of Nintendo's third-party developers on the Nintendo Switch, so it definitely is a possibility. Resident Evil has had a long history with Nintendo's systems. The Wii U was a little bit lackluster when it came to Resident Evil games. All there was Resident Evil Revelations. I think that was the only one on there. The Nintendo 3DS did get Resident Evil Revelations as well, but the Nintendo Wii got a lot more as far as Resident Evil games go. It got a couple exclusive ones with Darkside Chronicles, Umbrella Chronicles, and it also had Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 0 ports. So Nintendo and Capcom go a long ways back, even dating back to the big exclusive for about a year, which of course is the iconic Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube. So I do think that this is a possibility, and I think it's something, especially with that engine that they're using, just because there isn't a ton of stuff going on. That game is 1080p 60 frames per second on PS4 and Xbox One, so they're really focusing on, I guess, the immersion of it. Not a lot of stuff going on in the background or a ton of zombies coming at you all at once from what I've seen so far with the game. So I definitely think that's a game that could run on Switch. Now, the whole VR thing is interesting because Nintendo hasn't announced any type of VR peripheral or even announced anything that they're even interested in VR or doing that this early at this point. They've said that that's technology that they're researching, but nothing sound or solid. Maybe they're trying to make it a surprise, make it as optional as possible. They don't want to confuse the consumer and want to release that at a later time. Either way, I think it's good if Nintendo does have Resident Evil 7. Obviously, it's a big game, it's a big franchise. The more third-party support Nintendo can get, the better. And if it has VR capabilities, that's just another notch to Nintendo's belt that they can have as far as what the Switch can do, from being a portable to being a home console. Now with VR capabilities right there to where you can play some of your third-party games that you see on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, I think that's a good deal if it does turn out to be true, but it is 100% rumor at this point, so please take it that way. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and hit that like button if you did like it. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future, and subscribe to PlayerEssence for more news, reviews, trailers, tips, and tricks, and everything in gaming. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you for the next video. Peace!